What's up guys, Nukin here, and I'm back with another Galaxy Heroes video, and today we're going to be talking about how to run Nightsisters in the Sith Triumvirate raid. So a lot of people have Mother Talzin, Zeta, and they have some Nightsisters that they can run. They might not have a 6 or 7 star zombie, so this is basically going to be a video of a general guide on how to run them in the raid. A lot of these mechanics and strategies that we're going to go over, you can replicate in the other phases, but in this video I'm going to specifically focus on Mother Talzin lead without a Nightsister zombie against Darth Sion in phase 2. So we're going to go over Sion's mechanics since we're looking at phase 2, and then we're going to go over some techniques on what you should do generally, and you can replicate that in other phases or against Darth Sion specifically. And then lastly, we'll go over some gameplay together and we'll take a look at how that all comes together. So hopefully everyone enjoys this video. Hopefully you learned something new. If you did, give it a thumbs up. It means a lot. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I make videos all the time. Let me know in the comments below if all this was helpful or what you're doing with your Nightsisters in the Sith raid. I want to know. And let's just get right into it. Alright, so let's dive right into some mechanics here. So here is the phase ability for phase 2. It's called Soothe. Now you can use this ability on any single character, and what it does is it removes all stacks of Cycle of Pain and Cycle of Suffering, and we'll go over that in just a second. But the important thing to note about this phase ability is that you can actually proc the Plague from Mother Talzin's leadership by using this. This counts as a special, so that's one thing to note. Now let's go over Cycle of Pain and Cycle of Suffering. So Cycle of Pain and Cycle of Suffering are very similar to one another. They both do practically the same thing. They both grant offense. They both can't be resisted. So for example, if you have Tenacity up, you'll still get the debuff, and they cannot be cleansed. The only way to get rid of this debuff is by using the phase ability Soothe. Now you get this ability by anytime your unit, after they take a turn, if they damaged an enemy, they have a coin flip. They have a 50% chance to gain 1 stack of Cycle of Pain. And then once you have 5 stacks of Cycle of Pain, it becomes Cycle of Suffering. Now, Sion also gets stronger with the Cycle of Pain and Cycle of Suffering. He gets bonus offense and he gets bonus counter chance. Now, in this video clip, we're not going to be using Nightsister zombies, so your Nightsisters are vulnerable, they're exposed, they don't have a taunter to absorb the damage in Nightsister Zombie. And even if you are using Nightsister Zombie, she is not taunted all the time, so there will be moments in the battle when your Nightsisters are vulnerable, so keep that in mind. And you might want to use the special Soothe even if you have low stacks, just so Sion won't counterattack your old Daka and then suddenly you've lost your Reviver, for example. The last mechanic that I want to go over, which we'll focus on, is that the Impervious Foe here. So Sion is going to gain that 50% tenacity stacking until his end of his next turn, and you want to land your Plague with Mother Talzin's leadership. So you want to try to use your specials right after he's taken his turn and his tenacity is back down to normal, or at least relatively normal for a raid boss, which is already quite high. So that's the last mechanic there. Let's go over some technique now. Alright, so we just went over some mechanics, so let's go over some technique. This should start to make a little bit more sense, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay in just a second. So this is the technique for phase 2 with your Talzin led Nightsisters. Now you want to save your specials after Sion takes a turn. So we just went over tenacity stacking, and so every time you hit Sion, he's going to get that 50% tenacity stacking, but that resets back down to 0 after Sion takes a turn, so you're more likely to land your Plague right after he takes a turn. Second of all, you want to use Soothe to proc Plague. This is good for 2 reasons. One, it doesn't do any damage, so it won't activate Sion's counterattack, which is good. And the second thing is that now you have an extra special in your arsenal to land Plague. So the same concept of if you want to get a mod with 15 or more secondary speed, the best way to do so is to farm hundreds of mods because you have more opportunities to proc that speed secondary. It's the same thing with Plague. The more specials that you use, the more likely you'll end up landing X amount of plagues over the course of the battle. The next thing here is about Spirit Blade Assault, and that is Talzin's second special. It's the Call All Nightsisters to Assist ability, and you want to preferably use that only on Sion. So small thing here, when you use your damage abilities on the side mobs, that doesn't count to your overall damage for the phase. Only your damage on the raid bosses counts. So that's one thing to note. Second of all, you don't need extra heals because you're running Talia, Daka, and Asajj, and Talia has 2 different heals actually, so you're good on the healing department. The only reason why you would use this ability is to try and revive old Daka if she ends up dying. Otherwise, you should try to maximize your damage and only use this on the raid boss. And the last thing here is to try and kill the side mobs with your area of effect, your AoE attacks. Now in the beginning, you might want to use your basics to kill the Sith Assassin because you definitely don't want her giving turn meter, but later and throughout the course of the battle, the majority of your killing of these side mobs should be with your AoE attacks, like from Asajj or from the Plague, just killing them, for example. So that's one thing to make sure that you're not wasting your basic attacks on some of these side mobs and you're trying to maximize your damage, because the goal is to try and do 2 to 3 million damage, more so if you have a Nightsister zombie with this team. Alright, so we finally made it to some gameplay. This is tier 6 of the Sith Triumvirate raid. This is phase 2, and a lot of this strategy I think can be replicated in the heroic version. I actually was like 4 to 8 Talzin shards short of running this in the heroic raid that we just completed, so I can't wait to try it out for myself there, but I'm pretty sure this will also work in the heroic version. So the goal here is to make sure at the beginning that you take out the Sith Assassin or keep her disabled. You don't want her to basically give turn meter to the rest of the team, so we stun her with Old Daka, and we'll probably just end up taking her out with some AoE attacks, or she'll just die to the Plague. So the next thing after that is to make sure that you're using your specials on Sion right after he takes a turn. So he just took a turn, so now we're going to use a special with Talia right there, and that's going to proc Plague. Another thing is you can kind of chain this because some of the specials don't do any damage, and as long as you're not doing damage, you're not going to be stacking that tenacity on Sion. So Talia's special does absolutely no damage, so then I can go ahead and use another Nightsister to use another special that potentially doesn't do any damage, or use the Soothe phase 2 ability to do way more damage. So that's another way to try and get more plagues, squeeze more plagues in there so you can do more overall damage. So next we should talk about some technique with Spirit Blade Assault. So as we were going over, you want to make sure that you're doing the majority of Talzin's second special, this one right here, to Call All Nightsister Assist on Darth Sion, and the only time that you should do it on a side mob is to revive Old Daka if she passed away. Now eventually Sion is going to revive the side mobs, the Sith Assassin and the Sith Marauders, and the way to kill them off is by using your AoE attacks from Asajj and Mother Talzin, and Old Daka actually can attack 2 enemies at once sometimes, and so watch what Asajj does here. So here's one AoE attack, and then she gets some turn meter when people die, and with another AoE attack, suddenly all of the side mobs are gone. So you're basically doing damage on Sion at all times, and you're just slowly kind of killing the side mobs off, and eventually later on in the course of the battle, Asajj gets so strong that she can actually one-shot the side mobs by herself. Now, because this is so important, especially later on in the fight when Sion gets Cycle of Suffering, he becomes super strong and he gets high counter chance. You want to make sure that you're remembering to use the Soothe phase ability here in the bottom right. Now what that does is it's going to give you an extra ability that can proc Plague, and it's not going to do any damage. So when you're using it on characters like your Reviver, like Old Daka here, you can proc that Plague, and you can make sure that you're not doing any damage so he won't counterattack and kill your Reviver or one of your healers, for example. So now we can revive Talzin back like we just did because Old Daka ended up not getting killed by a counterattack from Sion. So that's important to make sure that you're remembering to use the phase ability. It's the very similar concept like in territory battles, how some players forget to use the special. Always remember that you have that here, especially when you're running Talzin led Nightsisters. Not as important if you're running a SwGoH leadership, which you still can do as well. And if you guys want, for me to make a SwGoH video, I can do that as well. I just enjoy running Talzin leadership. Alright, so that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about in this video, so I'm going to start to wrap up here. Let me know in the comments below what you're doing with your Nightsister faction. Are you using Nightsisters in the raid? Are you using a SwGoH or Talzin leadership if you're running them? And what phases are you putting your Nightsisters on? I want to know, so let me know in the comments below. And give this video a thumbs up if you learned anything new or if you enjoyed it. It means a lot. And if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to continue to make a lot more Sith Triumvirate raid videos, so you don't want to miss out on that. And yeah, this team is pretty good. It does about 2 to 3 million damage, so that's pretty good numbers for the tier 6 version of the raid. I can't wait to try it on Heroic. We're about to launch a raid pretty soon, and I will report back into the comments my results as a pinned comment, so make sure to look out for that. And I will see you guys in the next video. I'm going to keep playing this footage. I'll let the rest of the battle play. You can stay and watch it if you want. Otherwise, I'm out, so I'll see you guys in the next video, guys. Cheers.